Joe Biden and Kamala Harris know the way. Let's go together. It's the only way we can go forward and build back better.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Hello, I'm Yo-Yo Ma. I'm so happy to join you for the Asian American Pacific Islander bus tour, and I am here to implore you to vote. And please go to iwillvote.com, because your vote, this is perhaps the most important time in all our lives, that your voices must be heard loud and clear. The Asian American and Pacific Islander vote really counts. Please, please vote, iwillvote.com. Thank you so much. Do your duty, and things will get better. We will build back stronger.
Thank you for joining this Biden-Harris campaign event, Texas AAPI Virtual Bus Tour. Please welcome Fort Bend County Judge KP George.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and I hope you could hear me. Is my sound okay? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Judge.
Okay, it's absolutely an honor and privilege to be part of something like this, and I'm so excited to be part of this. And because sometime I thought, hey, how do we mobilize the Asian community? How do we mobilize one of the most educated, one of the most contributing community in the United States? We collectively maybe less than 20 million people, but that 20 million people are one of the integral part, economic engine of our country. And so, as you know, I'm representing Fort Bend County, and the people of Fort Bend County give me an opportunity to serve around 830,000 people, one of the most diverse in the country, with 122 languages are spoken, one of the highest Asian population, densely populated living a county like Fort Bend County. So I am so excited about the Biden-Harris ticket. And also the people coming from the South Asian background, and also people coming from the Indian background. And so I am so excited to see that somebody with a name Kamala Harris is the second, once the ticket win, she's going to be the second in command of our nation. That is a lifetime dream come true, in my opinion, and so I am so excited. I'm committed to do everything possible to make sure I'm going to do everything to make sure Fort Bend County, Biden-Harris is going to carry Fort Bend County. And it started with 2016, Hillary Clinton, first time last 40 years, carrying Fort Bend County among the Democratic presidential candidates. So that's where everything started, and things are looking good here. And I just wanted to say thank you for this. Thank you for organizing something like this. And unfortunately, I'm traveling. That's why I'm talking to you from a car. But thank you for doing this. And today, I know that there is a number of trailblazers in our community are participating in this, and I'm honored to introduce to you two honorable member of Congress. One is actually Honorable Judy Chu, and also Honorable Raja Krishnamoorthi. And I absolutely, you guys are giving a lot of hope and excitement for people coming from Asian background, South Asian background, because these young people are looking up to you and saying, hey, I could do the same thing. And that's the same value Kamala Harris is going to bring it to the Indian population, South Asian population, the immigrant community in general. And it's an honor to be part of it. With that, I will welcome both members of Congress, Congresswoman Judy Chu and Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi. Welcome. Thank you.
Well, thank you for that introduction, Judge George. I'm here in California, and I am thrilled to be here with the Texas AAPIs for Biden as part of our virtual AAPI bus tour. As chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, or what we call KPAC, it's great to be joined by my fellow KPAC colleague, Congressmember Raja Krishnamoorthi. And let me just say, when we first launched this tour last week, I told everyone that Texas is the state I was most excited to visit. And let me tell you why. It's because of the incredible energy and momentum I've seen from the AI community here in Texas, which has turned this once solidly red state increasingly purple. Now, with just 25 days left until the election, the work you're doing to reach AAPI voters in Texas is so critical. Voting is at the very heart of our democracy and of who we are as a nation. It gives us a say in our future. And during the most consequential election of our lifetime, it's so important that we do everything we can to ensure the voices of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are heard loud and clear. You see, today, the AAPI vote has tremendous power and potential. AAPIs are the fastest growing racial and ethnic group in the US electorate. We have more than doubled our voter registration numbers over the last decade, with more than 11 million AAPIs eligible to vote this year. And by 2044, we will have doubled even those numbers. We are the swing vote in key swing states and congressional districts all across the nation. And that includes right here in Texas, where the number of eligible AAPI voters grew by 46% from 2012 to 2018, and AAPIs are now 5.5% of the state's electorate. So we know that AAPIs can make a huge difference and be the margin of victory. Now, it's important that AAPIs not only turn out for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but that they also help to elect Democrats down the ballot as well. And that includes 3 incredible candidates who are running for Congress right here in Texas. And I'm so excited that they're with us today. They are on our red to blue list and have been endorsed by Aspire PAC, which is the political arm for the AAPI members of Congress. And these candidates are so incredible that I just have to spend a few minutes bragging about them. We have Gina Ortiz Jones running in Texas 23rd Congressional District. She's an American intelligence officer who served in the US Air Force and gave Will Hurd a run for his money in 2018, losing by only 1,000 votes, that she scared him into retiring this cycle. So this year, Gina has a real chance to win. And there's Sri Kulkarni running in Texas's 22nd Congressional District, a Foreign Service officer who made a name for himself by campaigning in over a dozen different languages to reach immigrant voters who are often overlooked. He came within 14,000 votes of winning last time, but now that Pete Olson is retiring, there's a clear path to victory for Sri. And then there's also Sima Ladjevardian running in Texas's 2nd district against Republican Dan Crenshaw. She's an attorney, a public activist, and an immigrant from Iran who's a living testament to the strength immigrants bring to this country. And she wants to ensure that the American dream is accessible to all. Now, this pandemic has had a terrible impact on all Americans, but it's taken a particularly devastating toll on AAPI workers, businesses, and families. And what's even worse is that in order to deflect blame for his failed response to this pandemic, Donald Trump has chosen to stoke xenophobia and use hateful terms like China plague, Chinese virus, and Kung flu, rather than the scientific and neutral term COVID-19. He's done this against the advice of health experts from the CDC and World Health Organization, who warn not to associate the disease with a specific region or ethnicity because of the stigma it causes. And he's done this repeatedly, even though it's led to over 2,900 anti-Asian hate crimes and incidents over the past few months, including right here in Texas, the stabbing of an Asian American family, which included 2 young children, ages 2 and 6, at a Sam's Club in Midland by a man who wanted to exterminate Asians because of the coronavirus. Clearly, we can no longer have Donald Trump in the White House. We need a president who will fight for all of us, someone who rejects the hateful rhetoric that is too often used to divide us and believes that America's diversity is our greatest strength. And that's exactly why we must elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So I'm telling you, we have a big job to do in the next 25 days. Let us work as hard as we can for this incredible presidential ticket and other Democratic candidates here in Texas. Together, we can restore decency, leadership, and compassion to the White House by electing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as our next president and vice president of this United States. And now I'd like to turn it over to an incredible Congress member from Illinois, Raja Krishnamoorthi.
Hey, thank you so much, Judy. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Well, thank you so much to all of you. It's so nice to be with you, Judy, our fearless leader of KPAC, Judy Chu, who's just a wonderful, wonderful person, an excellent member of Congress, and we're so proud to have her as our fearless leader. It's so nice to be with all of you. It's so nice to come someplace where they can pronounce your name properly. This is a true story. When I first ran for office in Illinois, I said, "Hi, my name is Raja Krishnamoorthi." And the person looked right back at me and said, "Roger Christian Murphy." So, and then that person said, "I didn't know the Irish made it to India." And so in any case, it's so nice to be with you tonight. I want to observe those 3 rules of Zoom speaking, which is be short, be sweet, and then be gone. So I want to try to make 3 simple points. First of all, I want to say a special thank you to KP George, who made history in his own right, being the first judge, which is basically the person running Fort Bend County. That's a big deal, 830,000 people. And so having an Asian American being the presiding executive officer of this very large and growing county is a testament to the hard work of all AAPIs and Asian Americans in Texas, but also Fort Bend County. So thank you, Judge George. Of course, I want to say a special thank you to Gina and Sri and Sima for running for office, running for Congress. And I can't wait to see you in Washington, D.C. We have some seats reserved for you. And I can't wait to work with you folks and collaborate and make sure that we make the Biden-Harris administration successful and we make the American people better off for having elected them and electing you. The second point I want to get into is a little bit of my story because it helps to illustrate your story, the people that are listening to this call. I happen to have been born in India. I came to this country when I was 3 months old. And things were going very well until suddenly they did not in the recession of 1973. But thanks to the amazing generosity of the American people and its government, we were allowed to move into public housing and food stamps. So I spent about half of my early childhood in those 2 programs. But thanks to the generosity of the American people, we were allowed to stay until my father could get an excellent job in, of all places, Peoria, Illinois. So like the story of many immigrants, including probably your own families, we were able to work hard. We were able to educate or get educated in wonderful public schools and finally enter the middle class. And every night at the dinner table, my father would say something along the lines of the following. He would say, think of the greatness of this country. Think of the greatness of this country, and whatever the 2 of you do, my brother and me, just make sure that you're there for the next families who need it. and this country is too. And so fast forward, my life has come full circle, and now I'm in a position where I'm trying to work on that mission statement assigned to me by my parents, which is how to make sure this country is there for the next families who need it. And I suspect each and every one of you on this call and each of the candidates who are running for Congress are running to make sure that this country is there for the next families who need it, especially now, more than ever during this pandemic, when there is severe need. We have to make sure that this country is standing by them. And that's why we are so proud to support Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We all know their life stories, but they are on a mission to make sure that our government is there when we need it, not only for the healthcare crisis and killing the coronavirus once and for all, not only to help repair the damage to the economy that's been done during this pandemic, but also to help America be its best self, to make sure that it does not matter, once again, where you come from, the color of your skin, how you pray, whom you love, or how many letters there are in your name. There are 29 in mine at last count. But the point is this, which is we need to make sure that America becomes its best self once again. And that's why Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are so important, not only to you and me, but to our children, our families, our community, and our country, and indeed the world. So I segue to my third and final point, which is this. There's an old saying in Washington, D.C., if you don't have a seat at the table, you're on the menu. And none of us or our families or our priorities can possibly afford to be on the menu. So the way that we are going to pull up a proverbial seat to the table is by one way and one way only, and that is voting. We must vote. Now, I don't know about you folks, but in the Indian American community and South Asian community, we like to talk politics. We don't do politics so well, meaning we don't vote in our numbers. Now, as you know, democracy is not only a noun, it's a verb, and that means it's time to vote. We have to make sure that our seniors and others who may not want to go to the polls in person are able to mail in their ballots. And then for the rest of us who might be able to physically go in person, we need to make a plan too, and make sure that we do it safely and we do it in a timely fashion. Because now more than ever, your vote is actually going to be the difference between whether America returns to its path of greatness or whether we revert into a morass where we constantly are embarrassed by what's happening in Washington, D.C., instead of standing up and being proud. So with that, I just want to say thank you. And thank you all for the honor of addressing you for a couple minutes here.
Thank you so much, Congressman. My name is Gene Wu, and I am the state representative for House District 137 in the great state of Texas. And it is my honor to introduce the rest of our panel today. In addition to the congressman and the congresswoman, we also have some of the best and brightest of the APIA community who are running for office this very election. And many of them are my friends, and I am so excited to introduce them. Starting up is Gina Ortiz Jones, then my friend Shri Preston Kulkarni, and of course, Sima Ladjevardian. And we're going to begin our panel discussion with both congressmen, congresswomen, and our three candidates who are aspiring congressional members. So let's start with Shri. Now, as Congresswoman Chu has said, the Asian American community is the fastest growing community in the United States and is also the fastest growing electorate, the eligible voters in the United States. What is the importance of the AAPI vote in 2020?
So, first of all, thank you, Representative Wu, for all of your support for me and your mentorship, as well as Congressman Krishnamoorthi and Congresswoman Chu. We start out not having that background or that experience. And so without that mentorship and leadership, many of us wouldn't be here. As you know, in 2018, I came back home after serving in the Foreign Service for over 14 years. And what I found was that our district had the largest AAPI community. About 20% of our district is AAPI. We're also the fastest growing and the largest district by population in the country. And I said, why aren't we reaching out to the AAPI community? And what I was told is that Asian Americans don't vote, and the easiest way to lose an election is to talk to people who don't vote. And I said, you lost by 35 points before. The easiest way to never get change is to keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. I speak 6 languages myself from my time overseas. We recruited people from every one of the major Asian communities. We are campaigning now in Chinese, Vietnamese, Korean, Hindi, Urdu, Gujarati, Bengali. We are campaigning in 27 different languages, more than any other campaign in Texas history or American history. And the result of this work was that we got 30,000 people to come out who hadn't voted for president in 2016. And we took a district that had been won by 35 points and got it within 4.9 points. And since then, we've registered 63,000 new people in the district. Our incumbent Republican member of Congress, Pete Olson, dropped out of the race. We now have about 100,000 registered Asian Americans in our district. We can be the margin. And across Texas right now, the margin between Vice President Biden and Donald Trump is less than 2%. In 2018, the total margin between Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz was 2.6%. Our population is 800,000. We could be the margin, not just for Texas, but if we flip Texas, we flip the entire country. So again, our community, if we come out and vote in large numbers, we will not stay on the margins for the entire.
Thank you so much, Sri. And next, Congresswoman Chu. I know many of us on this panel have a very similar background, that our parents came here or we came here as immigrants.
Live on custom streaming service or just Facebook?
No, I did live on custom streaming service.
Interesting.
Look at the future.
Okay. That it may be that we're not going to be able to stream it live.
And set
So
at the 20 credit.
I do know they are currently streaming an event on there because I think Texas has their event.
Ability or abilities. It's a Facebook. Everyone in this,
not
regardless of your economic background,
for
status, has the opportunity to pursue their dreams and build a brighter future. Pursuit of this inspired so many families to states. Take, for instance, my own grandfather, who came to this country in 1906 with nothing. He faced the discriminatory laws of the time, the laws that prevented Chinese Americans from becoming naturalized citizens so they could not vote, the laws that prohibited the Chinese from being hired in any corporation and prohibited all Asian Americans from owning land. But he decided to make something of himself anyway. He opened up a small Chinese restaurant in Watts in California. He worked day and night and day. He used that very expensive labor, his sons, and he was able to make ends meet for his family. 2 generations later, his granddaughter could become a member of Congress. That is the American dream. And what's so remarkable about this election is that we now have the first ever Asian American and first Black woman vice presidential nominee on a major party ticket in history with Kamala Harris. Like so many.
Yeah, it's on a zoom.us page. It's doing preparing to live stream.
Click go live.
I have not yet. I haven't clicked anything.
Don't click anything.
It's
Immigrant Institute
screen. It'll be audio.
Redirect me to Facebook again.
It did. Okay, so cancel the
phobia that's made us all feel less safe. And that's why it's so important that we as a nation must elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to bring our country together and ensure that the American dream continues to be achievable for all.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Chu. Next, Sima. I know you are an amazing attorney, and you have also battled breast cancer as one of your defining moments in your life. And I know healthcare is extremely important to your campaign and to you personally. Tell us, what does the vacancy in the Supreme Court mean? What does the Republican rush to fill this seat mean for the American public? What does it mean for the future of our country?
First of all, it's such an honor being here with everybody that's on this panel. Look, being a cancer survivor, I understand the importance of high quality care, healthcare. I understand what it means to have a pre-existing condition. And just, this is such an important decision because they are planning to take away the Affordable Care Act. And we have 32 million people who are covered who could lose their insurance. Just in Texas, we have 2 million people who can lose their insurance. We are already the least covered state in the nation. Before the pandemic, it was 1 out of 5. Under 65 after the pandemic is 1 out of 3. The number of people with pre-existing condition is just 340,000 in my district alone, and over 100 million nationally. So it's extremely important because given that COVID is also going to be a pre-existing condition, it's going to add even more numbers to people who are not covered. And in the middle of the pandemic, where people have lost their jobs and have lost access to healthcare that they had with their jobs. So it is really a serious issue that we have to address. Healthcare is a human right. We have to make sure that we protect the Affordable Care Act, expand it, make it better, and open our public option for Medicare for everyone. And more than anything, we have to negotiate down our prescription drug prices. So, but what I'm worried about, that this is just the beginning with this new Supreme Court. You know, there's so many other things that can be affected. That is why this is the most important election of our lifetime that we need to fight for. I am so excited to vote on October 13th, first day of the election. I actually went to law school with Kamala, and it's such an honor to be on the same ticket with her and vote for her alongside her as the first woman, the first Asian African-American woman. So honored to be here. We have to fight for this election, and I know we're going to do it.
Thank you so much, Sima. And you are absolutely right. Healthcare is a human right. Next up, let's talk to Gina Ortiz Jones. And Gina, I know you are a veteran. You have served our country just in unbelievable ways. But at the same time, I know Asian Americans throughout this country have dealt with the feeling that no matter what we do, how we contribute to this nation, that we're never fully accepted as Americans. What does patriotism, what does it mean for Asian Americans to serve? How do we fit into the society in this country? And how do we become seen as fully American?
Well, look, I think it's important to recognize that, you know, patriotism is often defined different ways. But I think, you know, people have a personal understanding of what it means to be an American citizen. And that's you know, personal based on, as has just been described here, all of our various backgrounds. But I think we all represent and understand just how special our country is and why it's important that we protect the opportunities that are unique to this country. You know, my mom came to this country over 40 years ago. She graduated from the #1 university in the Philippines. But she wanted a chance at the American dream, and the chance presented itself as, you know, coming to our very special country as a domestic helper. And she jumped at it because she knew even if she came to this country in that capacity, the sky is the limit, right? If you're willing to work hard in this country, the sky is the limit. And so I think, you know, it's always been, you know, my mom's story, my mom's work ethic, that has just reminded, you know, my sister and I that we had to give back to a country that gave us so much. It's why I served. It's why my sister serves in the Navy to this day. And so, you know, she taught us very early, you don't need to listen to what others are saying about you. You define what you understand is the best of your ability and to your ability, and you be a good person. You be as patriotic and as American in every sense of the word as you know yourself to be. And others are going to say what they want to say, kind of regardless. And it's not really for you to try to figure out why they don't want to accept you, right? That's on them. That's not on you. I think what's most important, and certainly in this time, is that, look, we are unafraid, we are unapologetic, and we understand that so we understand what's at stake for our communities, but also our country, right? This is our country as much as it is anyone else's. And it's so important that we have our say. It's so important that our communities show up at the ballot box, make sure that our voices are heard, to ensure that we are doing everything we can to protect this this very special country, and make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that the American dream is for those behind us.
Thank you, Gina. Those are very, very wise words. Next up, Rep. Krishnamoorthi, I know you have to get going soon, but before you leave, could you talk about something that's, I know, very important to the Asian American community, and that is that many people have been left behind. Many people who own small businesses and other type of businesses in the Asian American community have been left behind during the pandemic. What is the Joe Biden plan to get our small businesses and economy back on track? How do we protect our community?
Well, thank you so much for that question. I think it's so important because so many successful entrepreneurs and small business people are Asian American. And by the way, so many of them are women, Asian American owned businesses. And so I think that there are two aspects to the Build Back Better plan that I want to emphasize. One is I think Joe Biden is going to finally invest in the infrastructure program that we so desperately need as a country. In Washington, Donald Trump, whenever he gets into trouble, says that it's infrastructure week. It's become a joke. And so the press corps, along with members of Congress, always say when there's some kind of scandal going on that it must be infrastructure week. It's all talk, however, because nothing gets done on infrastructure. But it's so desperately needed. And as you know, so many Asian American entrepreneurs and small businesses rely on a high quality infrastructure to basically make sure that their goods get delivered to market on time, and that we maintain our competitiveness and productivity as an economy. The second issue that I want to highlight is that Joe Biden is going to pump more resources from Washington into state and local small business programs and initiatives that have worked. He's going to make the new markets tax credit permanent. Finally, it's been highly effective, but it has not been a permanent tax credit. He's going to expand access to low interest loan programs. And in that regard, I think that the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP program, will probably be given new life, especially early on in his tenure as we continue to deal with the pandemic. And that's an issue that I've taken on and helped to develop through my office. And then last, I believe that the most important thing for our small businesses and entrepreneurs in the Asian American community is for the pandemic to be over with. And the only way that's going to happen is to have a president and vice president who actually tackles it based on science, reason, and the truth, not any political consideration and no programs such as Operation Warp Speed. The vaccine development program is incredibly important, and the vaccine delivery program will be equally important. And it's something that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris will do in a safe and effective manner so that the American people can trust in it. They'll take the vaccine, we'll achieve herd immunity, and then we can return to business as normal. And Asian American entrepreneurs and others can finally get back to business too.
All right. Thank you, Congressman. I know you have to go. Thank you so much for being with us. And I know Sima had to go as well. Election campaigns are really, really hot and heavy right now. And thank you so much for your participation. But for the remaining panelists, we have one last question for all of you. Early voting in Texas starts in 3 days. And I know it's different everywhere else in the United States. So if you are watching from another state, your timeline's a little different. But for everyone who's listening in Texas, could you tell us briefly, what is your plan to go vote and be safe? And let's start with Ms. Gina Ortiz Jones.
Sure. Okay. Well, sorry about that. I'm battling the sun that's coming into my living room. But my plan, I'm going to be one of the first in line on when early voting starts on Tuesday. And I am actually very excited because it's going to be at the place where we had our high school home games. And so I'm going to be the first in line with my mask, with my own pen, right? And very excited that we're doing what we need to do, exercising our most important right as American citizens, which is voting and making sure that we get our country back on the right track.
Thank you so much, Gina. And next up, Shri, could you tell us how you're going to vote during the pandemic and what you're going to do to prepare?
So unfortunately, Shri Kulkarni had to drop off, so we will go on to Representative Judy Chu.
Okay. All right. Congresswoman Chu, it has been an absolute honor to be here with you. And we're about to start voting here. I know you're in California. What is your plan to vote?
Well, when I think about voting, first I create a picture in my mind of a disgraceful, xenophobic, self-centered bully infecting so many people in the White House. And then I replace that picture with the vision of decency and integrity that is Joe Biden, and a picture of the first Asian Pacific Islander VP candidate in history, Kamala Harris. And that vision makes me want to run to my ballot. Actually, I have to tell you that in California, every single registered voter has already been mailed their ballot. So my plan can be summarized in 2 words: vote early. And in fact, when we got our ballots on Saturday, my husband was so excited, he actually ripped open the envelope, filled it out, and got it into the mailbox within the hour. Now, I wasn't that fast, but I was also pretty fast. And that's the kind of attitude that all of us who care about what's happening to this country must take, especially we in the AAPI community, where we can make our voices heard through the power of our vote. And we have to encourage all of our loved ones to do the same. We need to vote like our very livelihoods and our future depends on it, because it does. So I want to close with 3 very important requests for all of you. First, stay for the text bank at the end of this event so we can reach as many voters in Texas as possible. Second, make a plan to vote. I shared my plan to vote by mail in California, but if you're not sure if you're registered to vote or haven't made a plan yet, please text VOTE to 30330 or visit iwillvote.com today. Lastly, I urge you to ask your family and friends and anybody you know to vote and to help them create a plan to vote. Well, there's too much at stake for any of us to sit idly by, and we will need the help of each and every one of you to get us across the finish line. So if you haven't already, be sure to download the Vote Joe app to take action in support of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Together, I know that AAPIs in Texas will be the margin of victory in 2020 and beyond.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Congresswoman. We've so appreciated having you and your support for this effort and being on this virtual bus tour in Texas. So I'm Rose Clouston. I am the Voter Protection Director with the Texas Democratic Coordinated Campaign. And just here to give you all a couple reminders about the upcoming voting period. I could not be more excited, as you can probably tell, that early voting starts on Tuesday, October 13th, the day we've all been waiting for. I hope y'all have, just like I have. And you can go and vote. The times and dates and locations vary based on your county, but you can find all of those at mytexasvotes.com. And we also, if you are eligible to vote by mail here in Texas, you can do that anytime you get your ballot. Go ahead and fill it out right away, like the Congresswoman described, and then get that in the mail. There's plenty of time for it to arrive at your elections office, or you can hand deliver it. There's one location in every county where you can do that. And again, you can find those at, no surprise here, mytexasvotes.com. If you haven't applied for a mail ballot yet, but you'd like to, and you're eligible, you can do that at, you guessed it, mytexasvotes.com. And we suggest that you fill out that application and put it in the mail before October 16th. That way, it gives it plenty of time to get to your elections office, them to get you your ballot, and you to get your ballot back in. And then your last day to vote is November 3rd. But like everyone else said, don't wait. Go ahead and get out there and vote. Vote early, because you want to be one of the first to move our country forward by voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But if you have any questions or any issues voting, you can call 844-TX-VOTES, and our trained volunteers can support you. Our partners at APIA Vote also have a hotline to support voters asking for assistance in Asian languages, and we're going to put that number up in the chat. That is 888-API-VOTE, if I'm remembering correctly. Again, that's 888-API-VOTE, and they support voters in a variety of Asian languages if folks need in-language support. We are so appreciative for all of you being here and for texting with us tonight. So I'm going to turn it back over to Kareem to lead us through the rest of the program.
Well, thank you so much, Rose.